As we navigate through life, we are inevitably tossed about by waves of various emotions. In the realm of relationships, in particular, do you ever struggle with a deep-seated mental habit of looking down on others? Even though you don't want to? Perhaps you maintain a calm exterior, but deep down, you unknowingly judge people, thinking that person lacks competence, or their thinking is shallow. And doesn't this act of placing yourself in a superior position often leave you with a sense of emptiness and a feeling of unfulfilled self-loathing afterward? Why do we fall into the habit of belittling others? It is often a reflection of a core anxiety and a feeling of deficiency within ourselves. When our intense desire to be acknowledged and to feel valuable confronts the uncertainty of reality, we might resort to this defense mechanism by diminishing others. We attempt to temporarily uphold our own sense of worth. It is a deeply human, yet simultaneously profoundly painful, form of avoiding our own imperfections by shifting the focus onto the imperfections of others. What if there was a path to liberate yourself from this heavy, chain-like mental habit? A way to sincerely respect others and, in doing so, find true fulfillment within yourself? The answer lies within the teachings of Buddhism, which have transcended more than 2,500 years. To continually address the struggles of modern people, the Buddhist teachings deeply discern the mechanism of this mental delusion, the mind that looks down on others, and offer concrete wisdom for healing its root cause. In this video, we will explore how this profound wisdom can lighten your heart and help you build more fulfilling relationships and an unshakable sense of self-worth. Please open your mind and stay with us until the end. Long ago, in a small village nestled within the rich nature of ancient India, lived a young man named Aakash. Aakash was gifted. He excelled beyond anyone else in the village, both in farm work and in his studies. Yet, his heart constantly harbored an unsatisfied craving. He found himself involuntarily casting a cold, critical eye on anyone he felt was even slightly inferior to him. Why can't that person grasp something so simple? If they just put in the same effort as me, they could achieve better results. His inner voice was perpetually criticizing and comparing others in a bid to validate his own worth. As a result, while Aakash was respected by the villagers, he was also somewhat isolated. People around him acknowledged his talent but were hesitant to open up their hearts to him, fearing his arrogance and critical attitude. Aakash himself suffered from the loneliness of being unable to connect genuinely with others. He had a faint feeling that the root of this emotional pain was his sense of superiority over others. But he couldn't break free from this deeply rooted habit. One day, he heard a rumor about a sage named Sanjaya staying in the nearby forest. Sanjaya was renowned for looking upon everyone with the same calm gaze and for using his deep wisdom to resolve the mental anguish of many. Aakash, grasping at straws, visited Sanjaya's hermitage. In the presence of the sage, Aakash honestly confessed his talent. The mental habit of looking down on others because of it, and the loneliness and suffering that habit brought. Sage Sanjaya listened silently, not interrupting Aakash's words even once. When Aakash finished speaking, The sage slowly began to speak. Aakash, your suffering stems from trying to fill the void within yourself with a fragile wall, built on comparison with others, he said. He continued calmly. You believe that your value only exists through proof of your superiority over someone else. However, true value is not about being better than anyone else. It lies simply in the fact that you exist right here, right now. The sage posed a question to Aakash. In your heart, is there any essential difference between that person you look down upon and yourself? Aakash was perplexed. He realized that while there were differences in talent or knowledge, in terms of the weight of their lives, the capacity to feel joy and suffering, and the reality of their eventual passing, there was absolutely no difference at all. Sanjaya explained the principle of dependent origination, which is the core of the Buddhist teachings, is the concept that all phenomena arise in dependence upon other factors and conditions. Nothing exists independently. The world is maintained by everything being interconnected and mutually dependent. No one exists in isolation. Your talent, too, was honed because of the environment surrounding you, and the existence of the very people you look down upon. If they were not there, whom would you compare yourself with? And how would you recognize yourself as a superior person? These words resonated in Aakash's heart like thunder. For the first time, he grasped the sense of true humility, the realization that his own talents were actually supported by the existence of others. After leaving the sage's hermitage, Aakash began a practice of changing how he interacted with the villagers for several days. The moment a critical thought arose to evaluate someone as inferior in his heart, he recalled the sage's words and started training himself to stop that evaluation. When an old man in the village made a small mistake, instead of criticizing internally, he redirected his awareness to the old man's past achievements or the warmth of his heart. When he saw a young man struggling with farm work, instead of scolding, "Why can't you do it?" he tried to focus on unknown potential, thinking, "This young man might have other talents I don't understand." As he continued this practice, a quiet change began to occur within Aakash. He realized that the act of looking down on others was actually draining his own mental energy. When he stopped the mind of criticism, his heart felt liberated and at peace. He began to experience a deep inner calm, realizing that forgiving others' imperfections was actually connected to forgiving his own imperfections. Aakash's peace of mind eventually spread to his surroundings. The coldness vanished from his gaze, replaced by warm concern and acceptance. The villagers felt at ease with the changed Aakash, and began to open their hearts to him. The circle of trust and friendship gradually widened around Aakash, who was once lonely, and he was able to become a truly fulfilled part of the community. Through this journey, he deeply learned that respecting others, not diminishing them, is the path to enhancing one's own true dignity. In modern society, the struggle of looking down on others is not merely a personality issue. It is deeply reinforced by the social structures and values we live in. From a young age, we are inculcated with the principles of competition and comparison. Whether in academics, career, income, social status, or even the number of likes on social media. We are constantly comparing ourselves to others, led to believe that securing superiority is success and constitutes a person of value. Within this competitive framework, the quickest way to temporarily maintain peace of mind is to find a target that can be recognized as inferior. However, this is a mental illusion. The act of looking down on others is rooted in what Buddhism calls ego attachment, a mistaken belief that a fixed, solid self exists. Ego attachment is the grasping at the idea of a permanent, independent self, or ego. We try to rigidly categorize others as inferior beings in order to maintain the identity of the superior me. This is a defense mechanism as fragile as a house of cards. As long as our value depends on the relative lower status of others, that value will remain eternally unstable. This is because every time someone superior appears, that identity faces the threat of collapse. To resolve this modern struggle, the teachings of Buddhism offer three indispensable core principles. First is the teaching of non-self. This is the truth that there is no eternal, unchanging self. Unchanging self means the doctrine that there is no permanent, independent self or soul. Our mind and body are constantly changing and are temporarily composed of various elements. Recognizing that neither the superior me nor the inferior me is a fixed entity dismantles the illusion of a solid ego. When this illusion of the self collapses, the need to look down on others to protect it also disappears. Second is the spirit of loving kindness and compassion. This is not mere kindness, but a deep empathy and will to act with two aspects. To remove the suffering of others and to give happiness to others. Compassion encompassing both metta loving kindness and karuna compassion. The mind that looks down on others becomes insensitive to the suffering and efforts of others, creating a feeling of separation. However, when we stand on the common ground, that all human beings wish for happiness and desire to escape suffering, the mind of superiority and criticism naturally melts away. And third is the principle of dependent origination, which we touched upon in the story. This is the truth that everything is interconnected, and each of our existences is sustained by the actions of countless others. Your success could not have happened without the love of your parents, the teachings of your teachers, the cooperation of colleagues, and even the existence of the people you might be looking down on. This deep understanding of mutual interdependence is the foundation for crushing arrogance and fostering true humility and a sense of gratitude toward everyone. The Buddhist teachings logically show that the mind that looks down on others stems from the fundamental sickness of attachment to the self, and encourages a structural reform of the mind to heal this sickness. By applying these core teachings to our daily lives, we can build a sense of self-worth based on unshakable inner peace, rather than fragile superiority. Specific application to the modern era and practical suggestions applying the Buddhist teachings to the modern challenge of looking down on others is nothing less than a fundamental rewriting of your mind's operating panel. When you are confronted daily with a colleague's mistake, a friend's poor choice, or the lives of others seen on social media. And the mind of judgment unconsciously wells up. You can use the wisdom of Buddhism as concrete steps for practice. 1. Becoming the observer of the mind. Practice of self-awareness. The first step is to use the practice of mindfulness to catch the moment. When the emotion of belittling arises in your mind, this is the training to recognize the presence of the inner judge. Stopping at the moment of reaction. Stop and notice when a critical thought about someone arises. Instead of immediately identifying with it, or acting upon it, label and objectively observe the emotion, as if you were a third-party observer. For example, my mind is trying to look down on someone now. This labeling is done without judgment, recognizing the nature of the emotion itself, such as anger, superiority, or contempt. Noticing the physical sensation of the emotion when the feeling of looking down arises. Shift your attention to how it feels in your body. Focus on the sensation itself, such as chest tightness, tension in the shoulders, or heat in the face. By doing this, you step out of the thought loop and prevent the emotion from being solidified as a reality. This is a critically important practice for treating the emotion as a temporary passing phenomenon, rather than as myself. 2. Transforming thought with impermanence and dependent origination. Practice of wisdom. Next, you apply the light of Buddhist wisdom to the thoughts of belittling you've caught, working to undercut their basis. Recalling the impermanence of the object of comparison. Consciously recognize that the current situation, or current ability, of the person you are looking down on is merely a temporary state. Everything is constantly changing. People are always evolving, and there is no guarantee that their current imperfections will remain tomorrow. Conversely, your own superiority is also impermanent and will eventually change. By recovering this perspective of impermanence, you realize the futility of making fixed judgments of superiority or inferiority based on temporary conditions. Introducing the perspective of interdependent practice using your imagination. If this person had grown up with the same education, the same experiences, and the same environment as me, I might have acted exactly as they are. Recall specifically how your own talents and knowledge are based on countless benefits from others and accumulations of chance occurrences. This fosters a deep humility that you are not a uniquely special being. This is the most powerful method for filling your heart with gratitude instead of arrogance. 3. Habituation through expansion of compassion. Practice of compassion. Finally, the practice is to replace the negative habit of looking down with the positive habit of the mind of compassion. Intentional discovery of goodness in your daily life. Intentionally practice finding the good points, the effort, and the kindness in others, and acknowledging them silently in your mind. For example, even toward a colleague who made a mistake, focus on their essential goodness and positive aspects, such as, this person is always sincere in their work, or they are trying their best even when tired. This discovery of goodness is the training to switch the mind's lens from negative criticism to positive acceptance. Practicing metta loving kindness meditation. Sit quietly for a few minutes each day, and first offer the wish of loving kindness toward yourself. May I be happy. May my suffering cease. Then, send the same wish sincerely from your heart toward loved ones, neutral people, and finally, the people you tend to look down on. This practice has the effect of expanding the mind's boundaries, strengthening fundamental goodwill toward all beings, and breaking down the feeling of separation. By continuing this meditation, you will realize that looking down on others contradicts the wish for your own happiness, and you will naturally let go of that action. These practices will not change a deep-seated mental habit overnight, but through daily continuation. Your mind will gradually transform from a critical and separate mind into an accepting and connected mind. The effect is that you will find fulfillment in genuine connection with others, and gain a stable sense of self-worth that does not need to rely on fragile superiority. Everyone, the mental habit of looking down on others, which we have deeply examined today, is actually an expression of inner suffering, born from a lack of kindness toward oneself. The Buddhist teachings clearly show that this suffering is a product of the illusory self-defense known as ego attachment, and the key to escaping this illusion lies in the universal wisdom of non-compassion and dependent origination, which remains unchanged for 2,500 years. Letting go of the habit of looking down on others is by no means diminishing your worth. Rather, it is the path to achieving a state of true inner peace. By stepping off the endless treadmill of comparison and deeply accepting yourself as you are and others as they are, your value does not hinge on whether you are superior to someone else. It resides simply in the fact that you exist in this universe as a singular, irreplaceable life. Starting today, the moment a critical thought arises, become the observer of your mind. Introduce the perspective of dependent origination, and gently light the wish of compassion in your heart. This small mental habit will be the sure step that leads your life away from the isolated tower of superiority toward the warm community of empathy. I sincerely hope that your heart is filled with the light of true peace and acceptance. Let us begin today to live by directing a warm gaze toward ourselves and all people around us. If this story resonated with you and provided some insights or learning, I'd be delighted if you could press the like button. Also, if you subscribe to the channel, I'll be able to continue sharing various life wisdom and lessons with you. Please share your experiences and thoughts in the comments section as well. Each person's experience becomes valuable learning for other viewers. Thank you so much for watching this video to the end today. I look forward to meeting you all again in the next video.